Julie! So good to see
Hey,
you. Good.
I'm so glad you made it today. We have so much cool stuff to talk about. You want to have a chat?
Absolutely.
I'm so glad that you're here today because I have some really great news for you.
Yeah.
Our board met last week after you submitted your application for grant funding, and I am happy to tell you that they unanimously approved your request for funding. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're planning to do with those funds? We're really excited about it.
Absolutely. And first off, thank you so much. We're going to be able to do some great work with those funds. So thank you and to your board for that generosity.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So we're going to be using the funds to support our digital drop-in. So what's happening right now in this time of COVID is we're not able to meet in person for the safety of our young folks. So we're able to host meetings online and create that support system, that safe space, that mentoring for LGBTQ youth across Spokane County. So not just folks here in the city, but really kind of far and wide as well. They're able to log in, connect in with trained mentors, with our staff, and learn some of those life skills and LGBTQ history and culture that they may not be getting elsewhere as well. We're seeing dozens of youth log in throughout each week.
Awesome.
And kind of throughout ages too. We're working with both teenagers, 13 to 18 year olds, as well as young adults, 18 to 24. So we've got that full span of folks. And then we're also able to connect in with them through our basic needs program. So we're doing those porch deliveries, those COVID safe porch deliveries of everything from books and clothing and food, hygiene supplies, bus passes, anything they need to continue making it through these weeks.
That's terrific. I'm so excited to be a part of that, mainly because our organization is wanting to be more actionable about how we are aligning ourselves with the LGBTQ community. This is exactly the kind of thing that we want to be involved with, and I'm so excited to be a part of it. So I just wanted to present you with this check for the Odyssey Youth Center and your program there. We're really glad to be a part of that. Would you like to pop a little bit of bubbly and celebrate?
Absolutely, let's celebrate.
Awesome.
So,
And now time for a toast. A COVID toast, minus the masks. So, here is to the Odyssey Youth Movement
and the Morningstar Foundation
and the Globe Bar and Kitchen.
and LGBTQ youth.
Cheers. I'm getting ready to walk over to the 2020 Pride Charity Dinner over at the Globe Bar and Kitchen. Would you like to join me?
Absolutely.
Awesome, let's go. While we're walking, here are a few coming out stories from LGBTQ youth in our community. Let's go.
My name is Aaron.
My name's Damon.
My name's Mads Oliver.
I am a board member for the Morningstar Foundation. I identify as same gender loving or gay.
I am a queer, transgender male.
I am bi-romantic, gray, still figuring that one out. I'm genderqueer, as you can see from my flag.
And I go by the pronouns of he or him.
He, him, his pronouns.
And the pronouns are they, them.
3 things that people find interesting about me are I am an old school cartoon fan. I love old cartoons from the 60s and 70s. I also am an old school, or I like old B-rated sci-fi and horror movies. The lower the rating, the more I'll like them. So films that are rated C, D, E, F, you get the picture. The lower the rating, the more I'll like it. I'm also a pizza and a ice cream fan or lover. You can never have too much pizza or too much ice cream.
I am a family guy. I am a Muppet enthusiast. And I am a music enthusiast.
Alright, so 3 fun phrases to describe myself. God, I hate questions like this. I am a mega nerd, and I am a merciless board gamer, and I am a compassionate lover.
Some challenges that I had when I came out was I came out in 1979. I was a senior in high school, and I came out because of phone calls that were being received anonymously by classmates' parents. Someone was calling kids' parents and telling their parents that they were gay or lesbian. And so to avoid or prevent my parents from getting a call like that and having to face them, I wanted them to hear from me first. So I came out to my mom, and then I came out to my dad, and both of them surprised me because they did not reject me. They just said that they loved me, and that was the most important thing, was that I was still their son. It didn't matter who I chose to sleep with. So that was very, very nice. In the 70s, I guess you could say that the community still was pretty closeted. So there was a lot of fear. So it was very challenging for me, and a lot of fear was associated with coming out to my parents, because I was like, I did not want them to find out through a phone call. I really wanted them to hear it from me. So that was probably one of the most challenging aspects about coming out for me, was that fear of rejection or fear of finding out from someone else or from a total stranger.
Coming out, I felt a lot of anger. There was a lot of depression. I felt really isolated from half of my family. There was a back and forth battle within me about whether or not, if I came out, if it was going to ruin my life, I guess. So there was a lot of battling. I also kind of pulled away from sort of trying to make friends, because I didn't know whether or not the person they were going to meet was going to be the same person, I guess, in a way, that they would see 3 months from then.
So a lot of the challenges that I faced coming out, most of them were internal. I was very, very lucky in the fact that I had a lot of supportive people around me. My mom and my sister were both pretty supportive, even if there was sometimes a lack of understanding. There was definitely just a compassion towards me that I know that a lot of people don't experience when coming out. And so a lot of my stuff, a lot of the challenges that I faced were internal, rather. I struggled a lot with coming to terms with the fact that I could identify as queer, and that was something that I was, because I was afraid. I had a few friends in high school that were queer, and I didn't really understand it very much because I grew up in the South, where I didn't even know that, like, homosexuality was a thing until, like, being gay was a thing until middle school. And so I just had this vast gap in my knowledge of what it meant to be queer, and like who can be queer, and is it okay if you're queer. And so I had a few friends that helped me out a little bit in high school where I learned about that, but then I was worried, like, I had a lot of, like, self-esteem issues. So I became worried that, like, even though I was starting to question my sexuality and my gender, I just didn't understand, like, what that process was like. And so I just thought I was trying to, like, project myself, like, into that group of people, because I had close friends that were queer, and I felt like that would be disingenuous of me to, you know, be like, hey, I'm queer too, but it's, like, really just because I, like, want to be part of your community. It's not because I'm, like, actually queer. And so there was just, like, a lot of internalized homophobia there, and also just a general, like, lack of confidence, like, in myself, and, like, thinking I was a selfish person and just not understanding how to come out. And, like, if it was like what was okay, like how do you come out like to yourself. So a lot of it was internal for me. And then there was of course the process of like, you know, coming out is a continual process. Like you never just come out once, like you're always coming out to more and more people. And so in terms of those kind of more external challenges that I faced from like the outside world, you know, I wasn't sure when my mom stood on it. I knew that she would probably support me, but I didn't know where she stood on like the issue and if she was going to be like, oh, I love you, but I was very fortunate that she was pretty chill about it. But there was a lot of that fear, that anxiety of not being sure like what people were going to throw at me when I came out. And then like every time I get into a new job, every time I move to a new place, like it's just another process of coming out and not being sure who's going to be okay with it. And like, am I going to get fired? Am I going to get like ostracized at work because of it? And just being really careful about how I'm coming out and who I'm coming out to. And I've come a long way, and I've definitely been able to push past some of those fears, but that's definitely been a huge challenge in coming out.
One of the things I do remember that was very helpful to me as a young teenage male that was coming to grips with my sexual orientation was that there were two older neighbors. One was named Godfrey, and the other one was named Tim. And Tim and Godfrey were just good guys. They were heterosexual. I think that they knew I was trying to discover who I was. And I think what really helped me a whole lot was that there was no judgment. There was just love. It was just unconditional love. It was hey, he's a neighbor. He's discovering himself. And as men, we're just going to be supportive of him and supportive of his coming out. So we had lots of heart-to-heart conversations. And as I explored things and felt like I had people to discuss things with, it was really, really helpful to me because I didn't have any brothers. I grew up in a house with all sisters. So having, kind of, I guess, males close to my age to talk to was really kind of nice. They were older than me, but they still felt like big brothers in a way. And, I did have my dad, so that was a plus as well. So, yeah, just Godfrey and Tim just letting me be me. I guess that's what you can say, is that I felt that was important, that I could be myself. I didn't have to hide and pretend I was something I wasn't. So that was a turning point for me. They helped me to accept myself. And fast forward, here I am, almost 60, and I'm still thriving. I'm still going.
Throughout my whole process, my dad was really there for me. I never had to guess whether or not he was supportive, or whether or not he was going to listen, whether or not he was going to be there if I needed anything. He was really excited when it came to changing my name or getting hormones, finding a doctor. He was always there, and I think that was a big part of why I became the person that I am now. And he was the way that I found Odyssey. So when I came out for the last time, because I had come out 3-4 times, counting the last time, so I've come out a lot. But the entire way, Odyssey was always there with resources. There were other youth there, of course, to support me. We traded stories, so I never felt like I was alone. There was always somebody there to make me laugh or give me some sort of advice, especially when it came to the volunteers. I always felt like if I fell, I always had someone to have my back. And when I was trying out new names, which is probably the most fun part of my whole transition, because of the fact that I did it at Odyssey, and every name that I decided to try, everyone was all about helping me find that fit, willing to call me any and everything that I decided I needed to experiment with. And I think that I wouldn't have been able to transition as smoothly and with as much confidence if I didn't go to Odyssey.
In terms of people that helped me with my coming out journey, there's a lot of different people, because, as I said, coming out is a continual process. It's that journey. And so there was a lot of different people throughout different phases of my coming out, both in terms of how my sexuality and gender was growing and changing, and in terms of where I was in life. Like, I started out in high school, and you're coming out to people in high school, and then you move to college, and then, or you go on to a job and you start having to come out to people there. So there's just a lot of different people that were at different phases in my life. So just to name a few, I think in the very beginning, which was in high school when I really started questioning my sexuality, I had a couple of friends who identified as queer. And before that, I had no concept whatsoever of what queer was, what being queer was. Again, I didn't know that homosexuality, being gay, was a thing until middle school, because I grew up in the South. And so I had a couple friends that identified as queer and really talked about their experiences, and were part of like the Gay Straight Alliance in high school, and just talking with them and starting to understand their experience, and then pairing that up to my own, and the things that I was feeling started to help me kind of understand, like, coming out to myself, getting to that point, which is always a process. And so I was very thankful for those friends, because I never really talked to them about anything, because there was too much like internal stuff that was going on that I didn't feel comfortable talking to anybody. But they laid that seed for me to start questioning and understanding what it meant to be queer. So that was kind of the beginning phase. And then when I got into, when I finally came out to myself, I came out to myself when I came to college in Spokane at Whitworth, and I had come out as bisexual at the time, but I didn't have any concept of gender stuff at all. No, I didn't really understand transgender, much less non-binary and genderqueer. And so a lot of people at the Pride Club at Whitworth was very helpful, and the people that I met there, and again, just talking about with them their experiences. And I went to the summit one time, like freshman year, and we just talked a lot about different gender stuff and sexuality stuff, and that's when I really started to understand the concept of gender more, and started to again pair that up with my own experience and try and like figure out where that's coming. And now that I've come, like, I kind of like figure that out, and now I just continue to learn more, and to receive support from people in my coming out process. I'm a part of a lot of places in the queer community in Spokane. One of the biggest ones is I'm part of Spectrum Singers, which is a choir that is accepting for all identities and all kinds of people. And so just like, again, there's a lot of queer people there, and talking about them with their experiences, and being in a really safe, supportive place, and being able to openly discuss my gender and my sexuality, and trying to like suss it out, has been really helpful in my current phase of coming out.
Hi everyone, my name is Ian Sullivan. I am the Executive Director of Odyssey Youth Movement. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a queer man living here in Spokane. The part of my identity I'm most proud of is someone who's a member of our larger community. So I am a proud transplant and a proud Spokaneite right here in the community, hoping to make a difference for others. If I had to pick 3 phrases that described me or kind of gave you a clue as to who I was, I would say quirky, community builder, as well as caffeine addict. So my own personal story in terms of coming out was not necessarily the groundbreaking blockbuster movie you would expect, but is also an important story to tell because it was a lot of putting things on the back burner. Let's not talk about it. Let's pretend things aren't happening, which was also not helpful to myself, my own mental health, or those in my family or those around me. So thankfully, over the years, I've been able to live out much more authentically as my true self, and that's been slowly but surely accepted by those in my family and close circles as well. And now I'm able to help do that in a community-wide aspect as well. Then I'm also going to, so on an Odyssey perspective, so Odyssey's been around for 28 years in one form or another. We started as a support group for gay and bi men in the height of the AIDS epidemic. And the early forms of the drop-in center didn't advertise their location, did not have signs out on the front of the street. In a way, the drop-in center was in the closet. So thankfully, in 2006, we were able to move to our current location, where we not only advertise where we are, we use a giant rainbow flag as our open sign during drop-in hours. We are a beloved part of our neighborhood and our community, and in a lot of ways, Odyssey has continued to come out over those years as an organization as well. And now we're able to come out and be that proud support network online during our digital drop-in programs. So I had a good friend in high school. Her name was Manny. Our nickname was Manny. We actually share a birthday, so we were close for that reason as well. But she was my kind of left-hand person through many, many things, whether it be stress through academics, family life, etc., and is very much that person I leaned on when I was first coming out and for years after that as well. She was often my first phone call for any of my firsts, having to come out at college for the first time, being outed in a work setting, things like that. She was my first call and has always been my rock to know that I can always give a call and have that support whenever I need it. So I first got connected to Odyssey as a program level staff person in early 2010, and I was already living out and proud and knew myself and knew who I was, but I continuously learn and grow based off of my interactions with those young folks. I learn something new every day from the queer and LGBTQ young folks we work with every day at Odyssey.
Hi, my name is Julie Wukelik, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer at the Morningstar Foundation. I identify as a female, and my pronouns are she and her. As an LGBTQ mom, I faced quite a few challenges when my son was coming out. Although I knew that he was gay from the moment that he was born, he was just a little bit different, and I loved him in spite of that. There were a lot of things about his coming out process that were challenging, including his desire to be like all the other kids. It wasn't fun to be bullied. He got chronically depressed, and at one point, he was even hospitalized because he was feeling suicidal. Watching your child go through that is heartbreaking, and it was very difficult for me as a mom. While my son was going through his coming out process, I didn't have a whole lot of people that were there to support me or to support him. We basically only had each other. So that's why I feel passionately about providing resources in our community to other parents and other kids who are going through that same thing. I'm very proud to be a part of the Morningstar Foundation, where we're going through our very own coming out process. In the past, we've not made a decision one way or another about how we align with the LGBTQ community. I'm happy to report that our board recently unanimously voted to align with the LGBTQ community in support of the at-risk youth. We'd like to do more than just make this statement. We want to put our money where our mouth is. So that's why we're helping to support Odyssey Youth Movement, and we're looking forward to many more relationships like this in our community with organizations that support LGBTQ youth and their parents. thanks to the Globe Bar and Kitchen for hosting this wonderful event. We couldn't have done it without them.
Thank you everyone for coming out to help Spokane celebrate Pride and for supporting LGBTQ youth throughout our community in these unprecedented times.
And we hope you enjoyed listening to our stories.
If you haven't done so already, please be sure to text LGBTQ Pride to 44321 to make a donation to both Morningstar Foundation and Odyssey Youth Movement.
And if you're interested in participating in the silent auction items, be sure to scan the QR code on your table topper.
All proceeds will be split 50-50 between the Morningstar Foundation and Odyssey Youth Movement. We are so grateful for the time and resources you've shared tonight and are looking forward to many more nights just like this one.
Yeah, and so be sure to hit up tomorrow's Pride Drag Brunch right here at the Globe Bar and Kitchen. Thanks for coming!